Today we're checking in on Dauntless and its first major patch since opening up to the public a few months ago, on top of an offering of new content such as a new weapon type, a new behemoth with themed gear to go along with it, a new island, new item types, exotics, as well as story-based stuff and more. The delivery of this patch is rather interesting, as The Coming Storm, which is the title of the patch, is actually going to be a series of smaller patches, and so not all of that content is coming at once. From my understanding, this was not the original intention, but instead of delaying the patch like most other games would do until the whole shebang was done, they're instead opting to release the parts of the patch that are done when they're done. Which, for this round, the big notes are the addition of grenades, the new behemoth Koshai, a new island, and some influence of the new stuff spilling into the old stuff. In fact, most of the highlights of the patch are being added in, with the exception of the new weapon. And maybe this is my massive amount of time in MMORPGs shining through, I think this approach in the future should be the way they go about this, even without delays forcing their hand. On a technical level, this gives them the ability to tweak as they go and offer those week-to-week update and tweak patches that Dauntless has been more or less consistent with since it went into open beta, and you hear it when any of the developers speak about the game, when you read a blog post or a press release. Like, on one hand, sure, this patch is a much-needed content drop, but the team at Phoenix Labs really wants to make everything more than that. It's not quite that this is specifically storytelling, but it feels like they're always trying to build out the world of Dauntless and create the context for anything new that they add to the game. And they're experimenting in methods to do so, as the gameplay loop of Dauntless is rather rigid, and I think that sequential, almost temporary state or building up to something is something that could work very well here if planned around that from the get-go. Anyways, let's focus on the patch. If you've been playing Dauntless over the last little bit, you may have seen a storm brewing in the skies, a precursor of the events unfolding in this patch, and the kind of introduction or the emphasis on Ostia and Ostian technology. Well, a series of events unfold, bringing an Ostian ship from that storm in the sky down to Ramsgate. And just looking at them, they have a much more sleek and minimalist aesthetic and advanced tech that we're not used to. And in Phase 1 of The Coming Storm, a quest chain leads them to sharing with us grenades, a new craftable consumable that does what you'd imagine. You throw it, it goes boom. And to start off with, we'll have 5 different grenade types to access: Inferno and Cold Snap grenades. Both of these will deal elemental damage, and if it isn't obvious, they're going to deal fire and ice damage respectively, which will work towards building up the elemental status effects. Barrage Grenades, which when you lob, they will blow up for just neutral damage, normal damage, and then blow up again, very cluster grenade style to quickly compare it to other games. Concussive Grenades, which are my favorite, are really interesting because they have the ability to interrupt behemoths. And just think of how powerful and convenient safe-ranged interrupts have been on your team, and now anyone can equip these. And finally, Transfusion Grenades. These you lob at an enemy, it deals damage and converts that damage into a set of healing orbs that you or your allies can run over and be healed, and adding healing to another slot that you can equip is always good, especially for learning. And as I mentioned before, this advanced tech comes from the Ostian, and that's where the next weapons will come from as well, the Ostian repeaters, which are slated for a later patch. But this phase of the patch is just bringing an Ostian presence into the game, which they will no doubt expand upon in the future, as those Ostians are probably working on some new-ish, if nothing else, some new grenade types. Now, what brings the Ostian here is the new behemoth Koshai. Interesting behemoth, themed around vines and thorns and nature. Koshai comes with a new map that he himself influences quite a bit, and the map will teach you very early about a kind of new mechanic and environmental danger: thorns. And walking over thorns will deal damage as well as snare you, but also introduces elements to maps themselves that haven't been seen. There is this hollowed out cavern path where you're underground and in a cave that's not big enough to fight a behemoth in, but there are some nooks and crannies with some rare materials. In addition, this map is a little bit more fragmented, making use of branch-like bridges between shattered platforms, as well as aether jet jumping, which I know that I love. And I should mention that it has also received an animation improvement when you are jumping from an aether jet. It kind of looked a little bit goofy in my opinion, but it's new. And I just imagine thematically that they were at a meeting when they just were going after like an island made up of a bunch of smaller islands held and bound together with these like vines and branches to really play into that Koshai theme. The tile set is largely the same as the forest tile set that we've already seen, but the vines and thorns are like added little flavor. It's not brand new, but even variety for the sake of variety is good. But with the map, you can tell that they're experimenting, and the island itself just has like this secondary dimension to it. Now they need to fill it with something worth taking a look at, because even though they have a cool island, it's still boss in a box, and the battle areas are largely unchanged. Now, the influence that Koshai has on the island has actually spilled over to a number of behemoths, infusing some of their abilities with that thorny goodness, and in practice, this means that you're going to be dealing with the patches of the thorns and vines and like additions to already existing attacks of already existing behemoths that will snare and deal damage when you step on them, but also kind of change the dynamic, because these become things that are on the ground and they can sort of ruin your pathing. They just give you something else to worry about. Now, they can be attacked by destroying them, but when they do spawn, whether it's through abilities or otherwise, depending on the fight, they largely are spawned in clusters or in larger numbers, and so the kind of theme that exists here with these vines and thorns and kind of overgrowth is that you can fall behind, and the battle space that you're in can get crowded with this stuff if you don't stay on top of it. Think of a similar chaos when people ignore Nezaga's quills. Now, this type of growing environmental hazard is key to the actual Koshai fight itself, and there are some unique ways in which it scales with multiple people, and just the excitement of needing to learn a new behemoth's movements and patterns. Like, I just found it a lot of fun. I really like this behemoth. Difficulty-wise, it's hard to place. I think it's on the same tier as Shroud and Rezakiri, but everything feels more fair. There are way fewer moments where you would just call BS on the behemoth. The armor and the weapons have a power level of all of the other dire tier gear, so you're not outclassing anything. The armor has a mixture of Evasive Fury, Predator, and Agility keywords, with the weapons having the unique effect of actually increasing the damage of a number of attacks, and that'll change depending on which weapon you're equipped, after not dealing damage for a certain amount of time, which is rather interesting. It kind of has that hidden run kind of gameplay baked into it, and that's how the tooltip reads, but grenades didn't actually reset the timer when I was testing it, and I don't know if that's intended or not, and this could end up being something that just sort of the reaction to it from the community changes whether it's a tooltip change or a tooltip enforcement. As for the appearance of the armor, excluding the helm, it kinda looks like a pimped out version of the Nasher armor. Luckily, the helm does save the day to give it a very distinct look and silhouette and makes it feel right. But that's really the main points of this update. There's more to come for the coming storm that I'll touch on as it gets released. I do want to take a quick second to mention a couple of smaller things that I care about that either came in this patch or between this patch and the last one. The crafting UI got cleaned up and is much better organized. The recruit weapons that weren't craftable before are now craftable so that you can be a completionist. You're now able to pet the dog in Ramsgate, as well as now being able to hide your chat box. And there's the introduction of the Armorsmith reputation bar, which hopefully will allow people easier access to some of the more defensive cells like Conditioning 3. And even though it's just a number tweak, halving the heal on the Nezaga and the Shockjaw Axe unique effect is finally going to make me use something else. Until next time, this is Fevir. Peace.